Good morning, it's Karen from Simply Living for Him. I'm here to do my daily encouragement video from God's Word. I hope you find these videos to be a blessing in some way. If you do, I'd love to hear from you. Share them with a friend, subscribe to the YouTube channel. So I'm going to talk about a verse today, which I've talked about many times, but that's what's so great about God's Word. There's always something new. You can always learn something new. It's never like we read a verse and then we're done with it. You can constantly get new lessons and insights into it. But most of you know, if you followed me for any amount of time, my life passage is Matthew 6:25 to 34. I would encourage you to read that entire passage. I'm not going to read that entire passage, just one verse from it today. But I was thinking today about fear and worry. And I have talked about it a lot, that I've struggled with those things in the past. And I'm happy to say that God has really done a work in me where that worry, it still creeps its ugly head sometimes, but it is really a whole different ballgame. Worry actually really robs us of so many things. It steals. It comes in and it literally steals from our life. And I used to worry an awful lot about things. When you're worrying, you can't be praying. When you're worrying, you're trying to control it. When you pray, you recognize that God is in control. And I used to spend a lot of time doing the worrying part, not the praying part. And I would kind of go over all the scenarios in my head of different things that can happen. And in fact, last year, this time, I was worrying about a myriad of things. And I was worrying about all these things that could happen. And when I look back at it, none of them happened. And if I think about it, I'm like, you know what? Worrying really robbed me of so much, because even if the things did happen, I couldn't have stopped them because of my worry. But what happened was none of them happened that I worried about. None of them happened at all. And I lost a lot of my life, a lot of time. Physically, it takes a toll on you. And I literally wasted hours of my life worrying about things. And again, it didn't stop it. It could have still happened. And now that it didn't, I realize how much time I wasted. So it says in Matthew 6:25 to, the passage that I like is 25 to 34. But it says in verse 27, yes, it says, which of you by being anxious can add a single hour to his span of life? And so right there, I mean, we know that God is in control and that all of our worrying does nothing to stop God's plan. I used to worry, what if this happens? What if that happens? But we have to focus on what is. And what is God is in control. And I have found this year it was very helpful to look fear in the face. So rather than worrying about things, to kind of face it head on and really go to the worst case scenario that you're worrying about and be like, okay, so if this thing happens, then what? And I always came to the same conclusion. And you know what that is? Then God is there. And God will be with me in it. And no matter what, I have God. Even if the worst possible scenario in my mind happens, first of all, I know that God allowed it to happen. And if I truly trust God, then I have to trust his plan. And I have to trust that even if I suffer, even if there's a trial, that there's always a purpose in it. No one escapes life without suffering and trial. And so all of our worrying does not stop the thing from happening. As it says here, which of you can add a single hour to your life by worrying? You can't. And so I say to look fear straight on, because worrying kind of turns over all these scenarios. But look it straight in the face. Look your fear straight in the face and say, okay, what is the worst case scenario? And you'll be led to the same conclusion. God is there. And if God is there, I don't want to be anywhere else. And I know, like I've talked about before, that there are people that are going through hard things. There are people that are suffering immensely. But I also know that God is there. And as soon as we recognize that God is there in it, it's such a comfort, because we can say, even if the worst thing happens, I get to walk it through. I get to walk through it with God. I cannot imagine going through suffering or trials in this life and not clinging to the Lord. It would feel so terrifying to walk into a struggle or a difficult situation or a trial and to not have the Lord, because where is your hope? If your hope is in the things of this world, of course you're going to be hopeless. If your hope is in your circumstances, of course you're going to be hopeless, because the only hope that is truly promised is that God is there and that we have Jesus for eternity. And so anything that happens to us in this earth, if we have Jesus, we can get through it, because we know in the end that God always wins. So I want to encourage you today to face your fear, look it straight in the face, instead of kind of cowering from it and trying to talk your way out of all the different scenarios of what if. Just remember what is. God is there. I hope that encourages you today. If it does, let me know. Share this with a friend, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and until the next time, I wish you all the blessings and joy in Jesus today.